are not the reason why people are getting killed. I think it's the human controlling it.
I disagree with Jacqueline because, like, you know, you were saying how it's the human. Well, the gun is doing the talking when they're shooting them.
I agree with Andrew because not the guns are the reason why people are like that got killed and also grenades and stuff.
I disagree with police because it's the human that is looking for the gun. It's not the gun that is happening all this tragedy.
But I have evidence from the packet. It was the one where it showed the boy holding the revolver, and it showed like all of his background, like what music he listened to and stuff. And the guy standing there was saying, "Of course, the culprit is the gun." That's what the little cartoon guy was saying. So.
But do you remember? So, do you remember what the tone of that cartoon was, though? When he was saying, "Of course, the culprit is the gun," and he was being sarcastic. But just because that one cartoonist felt that way, it doesn't mean that you have to feel that way. Right?
Just saying for evidence.
Yeah, I appreciate you tying it back to that image. It's really strong.
Wait, he was being sarcastic? He looked very serious.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He was being sarcastic. He was saying that the reason why the child, just like Jacqueline was saying, the reason why the child was doing the killing was because of all the culture that surrounds that child.
How could you tell he was being sarcastic?
He was
Because
Andrew.
yeah, Jess, can you explain it?
Like, so the Democrats or the liberals, they think that we need to take away guns because the guns are doing all the bad stuff, and then the Republicans or the conservatives, they think that it's just the person and the violent video games, and that you can't take away our gun rights. So the little man was saying, "Oh well, of course the culprit is the gun," and he was being like,
Well, that cartoonist was a Republican.
well, political cartoonists take what they think from the news and they manipulate it. Like they don't usually really take a strong side. Like they don't say that they're a Republican or whatever. They just take what they say from the news and they look at it from one side's perspective.
So if in the news you hear a lot of like conservative goes with the side of the Republicans, and then the term liberal is often used. The term liberal is often used to describe the Democrats. So we don't know for sure the perspective of that cartoonist, how he identifies, but the fact that he was kind of making fun of the liberals, we can infer that he must have identified probably as conservative. So.
I'm gonna bring up a new point. Is that fine?
Does anybody have anything to add to this point before we move on?
So I agree with Jackie because I think it's the person's fault if they choose to use a gun.
Okay, so is this a good time?
Just do it. Well,
Okay, so I think for violent video games, this isn't my topic, but I think it's a good idea. The setting of the violent video game, like if they're in an airport or somewhere, and I think that matters because if people think that violent video games are why people become bad, if people think that maybe that's where they'll go, and that's the setting that they'll want to do that in, because that's what they went through in violent video games.
I agree with Will because it also depends on the setting. Because really, it could be somewhere like how he said in an airport. You could kill innocent people in the game, which really doesn't make sense. Because why would you want to do that? Let's say it's a mission and you have to get someone. Why would you, instead of killing everyone, you could just get your target? What do you mean? I agree.
Because it depends on the setting. If you're like at some random place and you start killing a bunch of innocent people, it's not the same as like weaponing or like killing animals too. I agree with.
That the target
I kind of think that some violent video games actually to turn on Jesus. But I actually think that some violent video games motivate people to be violent. Cause there was a game that I played and it was called MW2. There was a part where you were like a Russian and you actually had to go into an airport and shoot all the civilians. And then I kind of think that actually motivates people. Just,
So how might that manifest afterwards, after playing that game? That violent behavior, you were saying you think it influences people. What kinds of actions do you think might come up because of that influence? What might people do after playing the violent video game?
they might attempt to do it. Or go on airport and do it.
I agree and disagree with William because it does depend on the
Jorge,
setting.
I'm sorry. Everybody needs to be looking at our speaker, please.
I agree and disagree with William because it does take it's really important that it takes place in a setting and what the person does. But I disagree because it's not only the setting, it's what they do in the setting because many things can do. You can use a weapon, you can use an accessory, you can use a person. That's all.
I agree with Jorge because, like, I agree with Jorge because it actually doesn't really matter about the setting because, like, for instance, my brother and my dad play God of War and they have, like, a lot of cool weapons, so the cool weapon like getting and like it the background might be like totally fake, but like the weapon that they use might persuade you guys.
Okay, so can you take it just a little bit further? So you're saying the setting doesn't matter. It's the weapons and the actions within the game that have a consequence?
I agree with Izzy because it about the weapons, they may look so realistic and they might interest you. Oh, I like this one because it's big, it shoots rapidly, and that's why you might be interested in violence. And later you might think, oh, I want to try this for reals and get a gun and try this out. Yeah.
So Will, I see some people with their tents out who haven't spoken yet. Remember, the tent is just kind of for you to keep track. You need to just dive on it. So go for it.
So, I agree with Izzy because, so what if a person likes a game like God of War and they want to like imitate it? So, with maybe real weapons, because so they want to kill people and they're insane.
So if kids want to imitate it, what do you think should happen with violent video games?
That they should be like not like really violent. It should be more like more non-violent. Yeah.
I agree with Joe John because a lot of like little kids might play God of War, Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, and if they're at home, they might imitate what they're doing, or like imitate the same behavior that violent video games is doing, and they might get in trouble by their parents or guardian, someone that's there.
I agree with Noah because little kids their brains are fairly changing.
We're changing a lot,
Changing
right?
a lot.
Yeah.
They're changing a lot. That's when like my brother, he plays violent video games. He plays like Mario crossover where you get to fight people, to fight the Mario characters. So my brother, he plays that, and right now he started like every time I've never seen it before, but every time I go home, he jumps me.
I agree.
When they think.
I disagree with Noel because my parents let them play that video game. So I see why they would not expect them acting like the video game they play.
Oh, I agree with Noah, cause like if you, like me, I'm the medium kid and my little brother. So when I play the game, he goes to my room and starts watching me. And they're like a copy machine. They see, and then they try to do it. Like you could take out the bad word, but it won't do anything because they're gonna go. Like now, my little brother, he hits me in the face. He kicks me.
I agree with Carlos, Isaiah, Jojan, and Noel that the game should be less violent and also I agree with Isaiah because that was my topic.
So, Alex had brought up the point, well, if the kid's being violent at home, the parent knows the kid's playing the game, and so the kid's not going to get in trouble. But where does a child spend a fair amount of their daily life?
I disagree with people.
Can you answer my question?
Well, really, the people who sell you the game are not just gonna, oh, you're a kid, I'll give you the game. A parent has to buy it, so it really depends on the parent. If does he care about you? Oh, you know what? Just take any random game. And kids spend their mostly money on games, toys, and all that. And when they get older, it also depends. When they get older, they might have needs like.
I disagree. Someone answer my question that I asked. Alex was saying, who cares about the bad behavior? If the bad behavior comes, hands off your face, please. If the bad behavior comes because of the video game and the parent knows, then that's the parent's fault. But where does the kid spend a lot of the kid's days?
In the
In us and in school. Right? And can someone remember the evidence that we wrote about from one of our sources? What did they find when they followed students who played a lot of violent video games?
Well, the hot sauce thing, it told you how violent it was and how violent they wanted to be with other people after they played violent video games.
And what was the result of that study?
Well, the person who was playing violent video games was more violent than the person who wasn't.
As measured by the amount of hot sauce they gave out. Excellent, nice memory, Sen. That's awesome. But I was actually thinking about a different part. There was evidence about the school.
Maybe they don't play violent video games at home, but if kids at school do, and they're always talking about it, then they might learn from them because they're like, what if they're in like their same class and they like sit next to them or something and they're always talking about it because they play it, then they might get the idea in their head.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard students in this class talk about it, and it's definitely develops this culture of cool around, ooh, yeah, I play that, so do I, so cool. So I get that, but there might be a difference there between hearing it and actually what? Playing it. So that'd be an interesting study. People who just hear people talk about it versus people who play it. But still, does anyone remember the evidence I'm talking about?
Oh,
Yeah.
is it when Adam Lanza, since he didn't have any friends, he started playing violent video games?
Okay, so that's great evidence, but for a different point about the cause and effect. No, it was they followed students who play violent video games, and they looked at their referral data. And the students who played violent video games had
Less referrals.
More
referrals.
more tiffs with their classmates, were more likely to get into fights with their classmates. Anyway, and threaten people. So make sure that you're writing down the counter argument. A bunch of you said that it's not the violent video game's fault, but some of you were saying kids copy, and so we shouldn't allow that, right? So make sure you have the counter argument and you're expanding on yours. Logan, what do you think about violent video games?
I think that mostly younger kids might get addicted to them. So I think maybe like kids that are under 13 shouldn't allow to be playing violent video games.
So maybe there's some sort of age line we could draw.
Yeah, because actually a younger kid, if he'll heard bad language or bad violence, I think there's a high chance that he might be saying most of that since he doesn't know